Well, hey friends, and welcome back to the kitchen. So I was not going to do a video today because I am not making anything specific, but the more I got thinking about it, the more I was like, this is exactly what I need to be showing. So this is real life making food, making meals with what we have, which right now it's not a lot. So we are using things up. Consider this video permission to not have meals that are like put together. And so what I mean by that is, let's say you've got a Mexican dish, you've got seasonings and things, you're making Mexican chicken and you don't have rice, you have a bag of pasta, or maybe you have some French bread. Consider this your permission to go ahead and serve that and not feel guilty about it. You're feeding your family, you're doing the work, you're making good food. That's all we can ask for. So I'm sharing with you a bit of a sneak peek about how that's going on here in my kitchen today. All right, let me take you around. So first thing is first, I made some focaccia bread this morning, which ended up using the rest of my avocado oil. I didn't have any olive oil, but it turned out all right. Not as perfect as I've made in the past. It was definitely, I used too much flour, so it was kind of low in the hydration when it's supposed to be high. But my kids will eat this. This will go good with any stew or soup or anything like that. It's still absolutely delicious, and this would make a great sandwich bread. Then over here I made some semi-whole wheat French bread and boules. So it did not work as well as it normally would. And that's because I used whole wheat. And yes, I am a pastry chef, and yet, sometimes we still just have days where things just don't come together as we want. I think I rushed the dough a bit, so you can see that my tucks aren't as clean as they would be, but this beautiful dough here, it's still nice and tender. Might not look as pretty as my real nice French bread has before, but it's still delicious, and it's using some whole wheat flour that I had in the pantry. We keep our rice in big buckets, and we had 3 cups of rice left, so I made this up, and we're gonna have that. And you know what? We may have rice and bread with dinner, and I'm not gonna feel sorry about it. So next thing we're doing is we are doing spatchcock chicken, which is chicken that's cut in half. Usually I do a whole chicken in the Instant Pot. That makes for a really quick and easy meal, especially when it's already frozen. But this one I decided to cut it in half because I was actually going to follow another recipe, and turns out I don't have all the things I need for that recipe. So we're taking similar seasonings that recipe used, and we're just making it our own with what I have. And pretty sure I cut the chicken wrong. I have a really hard time figuring out which way is front and which way is back when it comes to looking at a whole chicken. But we cut it in half, so it should cook a little more evenly and a little more quickly as well. So let me show you. So here we've got our chicken, and I am just using some radishes. So I'm pretty sure that I actually have potatoes downstairs, but these radishes really needed to get used up. They actually froze in the back of my refrigerator. So when this is like the keto version of potatoes also. When you cook these, like making them in zuppa toscana instead of potatoes, taste just like potatoes. They lose a lot of their peppery flavor as you like roast them or cook them. So they turn out to be great potato substitutes. So I'm adding that to the sheet pan. We're gonna roast that with the chicken as well. So then next on the list is I had a bunch of radicchio and cabbage. So I'm gonna make a coleslaw out of that. And that's one great thing that like I could make it today and then I could pull out a roast tomorrow and still like use that, put it on top. We could even do sloppy joes and put some of that on top or serve it as a side dish, whatever. And that's a really great dish too that I can slowly introduce to my kids. I can put a little bit on their plate every night and get them to take a no thank you bite or something like that, just to get them used to kind of the texture and the tanginess of it. And yeah, that'll get used up and eaten up. Okay, so now I'm cutting up the rest of the radishes. I had some that just weren't very good, and you can see I'm making a pile there of the ends and any that weren't good. But I will say that's one of the benefits to having chickens is that you never feel like anything goes to waste, because even our scraps and our food that doesn't get eaten is all gonna go to the chickens. And they've been very happy with scraps lately, since we're in the dead of winter and still have a ton of snow on the ground, so they're not getting their usual bugs. I did find a couple sweet potatoes that looked a little worse for the wear in my downstairs fridge, so I decided that I would chop those up and get those on the roasting pan with the chicken as well. Adds a beautiful color, plus it adds a nice sweetness to the meal, and I knew my kids would like it. I mean, can't say no to potatoes, right? Whether they're sweet or not. Okay, so check out this pepper. Clearly it's seen better days. However, there's no mold on it. Might look a little wrinkly, still good to use. Don't throw it away. Chop it up, roast it, use it. I feel like that's one thing that people get kind of in their heads about, right? Is if our produce doesn't look perfect, we think that it's gone bad. And there's a company called Misfits Market, I believe, that's made an entire business off of this idea, and they are selling produce that looks bad, that, you know, producers or grocery stores don't want, and they supposedly sell it at a discount. I don't know. I've never used it before, but I will say that, you know, taking our own homegrown or even things that we've purchased, you know, from the store, if it looks bad in your fridge, just use it up. Or if you think, oh, I'm not going to be able to get to it, cut it up and freeze it. But as long as it doesn't have mold, most of the time it's fine. So I added all those things that looked like they've probably seen better days and added them to the roasting pan, because when you roast, we're going to get those natural sugars and those natural flavors out, and it's gonna just, they're not gonna look perfect anyhow, right? When they're roasted, it's not like they look perfect. Would I cut these up and give them to my kids to eat for snack? No, because they're a bit on the soft side, but that's all right. So here I am making a Asian inspired coleslaw dressing. I do have my little one that you'll see in the background momentarily. He is allergic to eggs, so even though we have chickens, we minimize the amount of eggs and egg and dairy product and whatnot that we use. And especially being on a super tight budget, I'm making sure that everything I make he can eat, he can touch. So I've made this Asian dressing and I'm just pouring it over the coleslaw, and we'll have some tonight, and then as it sits in the refrigerator, it's going to kind of marinate, and that coleslaw is going to get a little softer and the flavors are going to intensify. So I really didn't have to make all that much dressing wise, and just coated it, and it tasted delicious. I actually had a bowl myself just as a snack, and my mouth is watering just thinking about it. I love the crunchiness and the tangy and those Asian flavors. And you know, I share this all because I want you to feel equipped and empowered to use the things that you have and not feel guilty. There are seasons where, yes, putting together beautiful full meals is, awesome and something that we strive for. And then there's other seasons where we're surviving, okay? And so if you have a hodgepodge of things every night, you're like, every night seems like leftover night, that's fine. If you've got full bellies and happy faces, it's fine. I give you permission to go ahead and feed your family in that way. As long as they're fed, as long as people are growing, it's fine. Never feel guilty about what you put on a plate. Love feeds us a whole lot more than food does. We'll see ya.